All right, all right, all right. Welcome, folks, to Getting Live with Lyndol Keith, the Opportunity Podcast. I am your host, Lyndol Keith. This is episode number 9. Super stoked for this guest. Oh my gosh, Damon West. Mayor West is in the building. You'll find out why his nickname is Mayor West in just a moment. This book, The Change Agent, I hold in my hand, is absolutely amazing. This gentleman's story is so powerful. He was sentenced 65 years in prison. Released after 7 years. He was a all-star quarterback in high school, went on to quarterback for UNT, and fell into some dangerous stuff, man. Became a drug addict and organized a crime ring in uptown Dallas that was burglarizing houses, and he got caught. Sentenced 65 years in prison and got out after 7 years and 3 months, first shot at parole. And now he travels around, speaks at schools, universities, athletic departments of college teams, pro teams. This is his second book of 2. The first one is The Coffee Bean. I haven't got to read it yet, but I got The Change Agent immediately and read this, and man, it took me on a journey. So strap in for part 1 of the Damon West story. We will have him back for a second episode so we can continue conversation, but here he is, Damon West. Mayor West in the building. Thank you for joining me, man. I really appreciate you being on the Getting Live with Lyndol Keith Opportunity Podcast. How are you today, sir? You good?
Lyndol, I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on. And just the fact that you know my nickname from prison, man, tells me you read my book, which I really appreciate. When you messaged me, and I told you that I love to have the person who's going to interview me read my book first, because it makes for a lot more informed interview for your listeners, and it's more fun.
Yeah.
It's more fun for me to someone, throw questions at me for whatever you want to hear, what part of the story you want to hear about that you think is going to be best for your audience. So this is great. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. I ordered it right away, and I tell you what, dude, it took me on one heck of an emotional roller coaster, bro. And like I told you in our previous conversation, I cried I don't know how many times during the book. I think I even emailed you. I said, at page 46, first tears.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing. I mean, I've never written a book before. So I wrote this book. Like the week before it came out, I told my wife, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, I was like freaked out. I was like, is there anything we can do to stop this book from coming out? She's like, why would you want to stop it? I'm like, no one's going to like the way I write. No one's going to like the story. It's just, you're putting yourself out there, man, when you write a book, because people are going to look at it and scrutinize it. In my mind, I'm going to add it, man. I've got all these crazy thoughts. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to scrutinize, they're going to hate it. The way I write, going back and forth, people are going to get lost. But just the opposite has happened, man. People have said, man, dude, don't know where you learn how to write, but you got it. So
it is so good. You write very punchy. It's very easy to follow, and it just takes you on a journey, man. And I curled up on the couch with a blanket, I just tuned out everything. I'm like, this is really epic. So for those of you guys that are listening that aren't familiar with Damon West, Damon West is a extremely sought after motivational speaker, best-selling author. Several years ago was sentenced to 65 years in prison, and paroled out after 7. His story is absolutely fantastic. And by the way, I want to start off by saying congratulations on getting married last year.
Oh man, thank you so much. Yeah, yes. You've done your research for sure, man.
I have. And not only did you get married, you got married on the day, 10 years to the day of your sentencing, and also at the same time that you were sentenced.
It was kind of set in place like that. I mean, obviously.
Of course.
We had a lot of family in town for my my college graduation. I was graduating with my master's in criminal justice. I went back to school after I got out of prison, and so I had a lot of family and friends in town. And so Kendall and I, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, were talking, and so it's like, hey, look, we can get married this day right here, and so we did. It's great, cool. You go and replace the worst day of your life with the best day of your life. So really, really an honor.
It was fantastic, man. That's so cool. And, you grew up in a very, I want to make sure and touch on a little bit about the the backstory. You grew up in a very good, loving family, promises for potential NFL. Touch on that just a little bit, kind of your upbringing. And
yeah, my parents lived, I grew up in a town called Port Arthur, Texas. And Port Arthur, back in the time I grew up in, it was a blue collar town, refinery town, predominantly African American. And I grew up being the only white kid at sports, at sports events, slumber parties, birthday parties, so it was a giant melting pot of a city. And that's great, man, because that really saves my life later on as you read the story and get to hear the story, because of the environments I was thrusted into, because of decisions I made, going to prison. I was really the minority in there, but being the minority wasn't my first time being a minority in a crowd. And it wasn't like it was a crowd I wasn't comfortable with either. My dad was a sports writer for the Port Arthur News for 50 years. He was the first sports writer in this part of Texas to put black athletes on the front page of the football section, man. This is 1971. And back when he did that in 71, man, people threw bricks through his windows. They slid his tires, man. They threw bottles through his car window. And it's like, man, all that because he put a black guy on the front page of sports page. But what my dad did is he saved those articles, he saved those letters and put them in a box. And he's got a box of hate mail that we, as my older brother, my younger brother, and I, we would go through it as kids, and he would make us read it and see what it was like to take a stand. And my mother, she was right there with him by his side. She was a teacher, and instead of teaching in one of the white schools, she taught at an all-black school from 1969 to 1975, and she, until I was born, and she became a nurse. So great family, great upbringing, had every opportunity in the world, just like you said, and a talented athlete, man. I had a lightning bolt for a right arm, but I had a lot of character issues. And because I could play football really well, and this is Texas, I was a starting quarterback for 3 years on my 5A football team. I got a lot of breaks cut to me in life. But I got into substance abuse at the age of 10, right after I was molested by a babysitter. I got into substance abuse at 10. I started drinking. At 12, I started smoking pot. And, it escalates, Keith. I mean, Lyndol, that's what happens when we get into a bad belief system. Like my bad belief system was all I'm doing is drinking a little beer, smoking a little pot. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not even hurting myself. But I couldn't have been more wrong. I'm in the early stages of my disease of addiction. But at 12 years old, and even in my early 20s, I didn't know what the disease of addiction was.
Yeah. And that's, you said disease of addiction. That's exactly what it is. It's a mental health issue. And I think a lot of things are changing in our society to really understand that a little bit more and figuring out how we can get more people help as opposed to just locking them away. And of course, there's got to be a fine line there and figure out, who's trying to play the system, using that as a scapegoat, as a cop out, like, oh, well, hey, I'm just sick, have mercy on me, I'm sick. And so through your years of being a quarterback and, going to North Texas as a quarterback and being a starting quarterback and then injuring yourself, you kind of lost hope. So that addictive personality that you acquired when you were younger really started transforming into the other things that you were pursuing after football. I mean, gosh, you went to DC working in politics, raising funds for campaigns. You were actually in DC during 9/11.
Yeah, it was, you have done your homework. So my life, I call it a fork in the road in life when I got hurt playing college football. And that bad belief system, and all I'm doing is drinking a little beer, smoking a little pot. When my college football career ended prematurely in 1996 against Texas A&M, well, now, man, I wasn't just doing a little, pot. I was doing cocaine, ecstasy pills, you name it. Because I didn't like being who I was. I identified myself with being a college football player, a college quarterback. And once that was gone, I had an identity crisis, and I didn't like who I was. I wasn't comfortable being just Damon West, and I couldn't recreate myself. So I escaped. I got into drugs, and drugs take you away from being who you are. They take you away from reality. And I liked the way that felt. And so graduated college somehow, like you said, went to work in Congress, worked for a guy running for president, raising money for him. Went to work on Wall Street, went to work for a Wall Street firm in Dallas. After the 2004 race, when Dick Gephardt drops out, I'm raising money for his presidential. And I got a job working at UBS, United Bank of Switzerland. And the office is right there off the Northwest Highway and the tollway, right there.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Oh, Park Cities area, man. And so, but, that was a big fork in the road in my life too, because for a different reason, man, because I got to that job and now I had a lot of money I was making, but I also got introduced to methamphetamine for the first time. And meth was the most evil, most destructive, most addictive drug that I've ever come across. And it grabbed me, man. And I tell people all the time, because I'm an addict, that meth didn't rob me of anything. I gave everything away for that drug, man. That's what addicts do. That's what we do. That's what, as an addict, I give it away, man. Addicts give up their goals to meet their behaviors. Other people, normal people,
I like that.
They give up their behaviors to meet their goals, right?
Yeah.
And I gave all my goals away. And man, I went from working on Wall Street to living on the streets of Dallas, brother. And that was it, man. That's when I fell in with the crowd of other meth addicts. And, you know, I'm living in dope houses. I'm sleeping in cars. I've slept in abandoned buildings. I've done it all, man. And I'm homeless. We start breaking into people's storage units. We start breaking into people's cars. And eventually we started breaking into people's homes in the uptown neighborhood of Dallas. And that's where the uptown burglaries would begin. It was a very high profile case. And man, I created a lot of victims out there, Lyndol. And, you know, my victims paid the biggest price for me to be here today. So I always make it a point to talk about them because they're the most important component to this, because they're the reason why we have a criminal justice system, or as I like to tell my students, criminal justice systems, because there's more than one criminal justice system. But victims play such an important role. And so I always make it a point to talk about my victims, because I didn't just steal their property. I stole their sense of security. You know, I don't know if they ever get it back.
So what do you mean by various amounts of criminal justice systems? More than one? What does that mean? What does that look like?
So I went back to school. I got my master's, and you know, it was interesting in my master's class because I mean, obviously, you're looking at your class, and you've got FBI agents, you've got wardens, you've got prison officials, you've got law enforcement people, you've got social workers. Then you got this guy in the back of the class. It's got a 65-year sentence for organized crime that's on parole until 2073. There wasn't another Damon West in there.
Right.
But what I was able to contribute to the class that I came through with and graduated with that master's was a different perspective, a perspective that sees it from the other side. And my perspective is this, man, because I've been there. You can't say, well, he doesn't know what it's like inside there. Hell, I spent almost a decade inside of a maximum security prison in Texas. And today I go to prisons all over the country and speak. But I can tell you with authority that there are more than one criminal justice systems in this country. There's a white one, there's a black one, there's a brown one, there's a rich one, there's a poor one, there's one for police officers. There's all kinds of different criminal justice systems in this country, and it just depends on who you are on the spectrum, depending on what kind of justice you can expect to receive. Now, is it blanket? Does it work that way the whole time? Obviously not. I'm a white middle-class guy in America. My first felony conviction ever, I got hit with a life sentence in prison, but that doesn't happen often. Usually you hear a guy like me gets out, man, or escapes the punishment of the system, the wrath of the system. It didn't happen that way for me. But what it's given me, though, Lyndol, is a platform to go out and share that message about various criminal justice systems. It allows me to go into college football programs or pro sports programs. I'd give the same presentation to the Minnesota Timberwolves where I tell them, man, if you're a black man in America, you got a 1 in 4 chance of being in the criminal justice system. You are 6.5% of the population of this country. African Americans make up 13%. Black men, though, make up 6.5%. 6.5% of the population makes up almost 50% of your prison population in America. 1 out of every 4 black men in America is in the criminal justice system. And that's what I tell these guys, these athletes at the end of my presentation. You can't do what you see other people doing, you know? You can't do what your white friends are doing out there because you can't afford to get inside this system. It is a machine with teeth. And once you get your mugshot in there, your fingerprints inside that system, it is almost guaranteed to devour you. And it's a machine with teeth, and it wants you inside of it. And that's just the way it is in America. And I tell them all the time, I'm not here to change the criminal justice system. I don't have that power. But I'm here to let you know that I've been there, man, and I can speak with authority on it. And I can tell you that you need to think twice about everything you do, and maybe 3 and 4 times about what you're about to do, because you have to realize you're not playing on the even playing field. There's going to be people out there, man. There's going to, you know, when I'm saying it to a room full of black guys or a football team, 85% of the room would say is African-American or black guys, they're all nodding their head. I'm telling them what they already know, but here's a white guy telling them that, right? And it validates it for them. But to the white guys in the room, to the other people in the room that aren't, you know, that don't know this, they're sitting here hearing it from a different voice now. And I think it's incumbent upon me, Lyndol, to go out there and share my experiences about that, because I have a unique perspective, man. I've been given this unique currency. You know, God has put me on this course and gone through hell with it, man. And I come out and, you know, my ability to go to school. I'm a criminal justice professor at the University of Houston now. Hell, I teach a class called Prisons in America. So I've been given this platform.
Wow.
Yeah, I
so
was in a
cool,
prison
dude.
in America. 4.5 years ago, I was in a prison in America. Now I
So
teach
wild.
about it. The
Yeah.
next generation of criminal justice practitioners. But I think it's incumbent upon me, Lyndol, to go out there and be that voice of what the reality is, because there's not enough voices out there that look like me like that. And I don't mind doing it.
Yeah, that's really awesome, man. You're making huge waves and changing a lot of lives, man. It's so cool what you're doing. And The Change Agent, I got your book right here. I haven't got to read A Coffee Bean yet. I need to order that next. And speaking of A Coffee Bean, the way that even came about was really interesting. So you went to Dallas County Jail. Of course, you go to county first before you catch chain, which is, you get on the bus and you're strapped to a dude, and no telling the chaos that goes on, but you have to do your time in county first until you get to prison. You met a gentleman that you call Mr. Jackson, and he shared with you some insights on how to survive, what to expect whenever you get there. And he gave you a very valuable piece of information, and it was the coffee bean story. So share that coffee bean story really fast.
So right after the trial, my parents, made me promise. They had a little quick visit with me, and I'm behind the bulletproof glass with my dad made me promise that I would not get in one of those white hate groups, one of these Aryan Brotherhood type gangs, while I was in prison. That, just because I'm the minority in there and I'm scared, that I won't give up everything I was raised by. My mom said, you come back as the man we raised you, don't come back at all. So I'm running around Dallas County Jail asking all these guys that have been to prison before, how am I going to survive it? And Lyndol, every single guy I talked to, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, they're all telling me the same thing. You have to get into a gang. You can't survive without a gang. You're going to the worst part of the prison system where everybody has a life sentence where you live, man. Dude, get into a gang. Don't be crazy.
Yeah.
But there was this one guy, man, this older black guy named Mr. Jackson. And I call him Mr. Jackson for the sake of the story because he went by the name Muhammad. And it's easier to say Mr. Jackson when you're going around speaking in this country, because if you run around saying Muhammad told me this and Muhammad told me that, you could kill the message before the message gets out just by who the messenger was. But I believe God puts people in our lives, and God put a black Muslim man in my life to give me one of the biggest life lessons I ever had. And let's say that I had been turned off by this guy because he doesn't look like me or didn't come from the same background as me or didn't believe the same as me, I would have missed out on the most important lesson maybe of my entire life, and that was the coffee bean. So one morning, he was a real positive guy. Jackson's been in and out of prison all his life, probably in his 60s. And so he says, Wes, I've been watching how you're dealing with these knuckleheads and these dummies, talking about you got to get to a gang. He said, don't listen to them. He said, but let me tell you what prison's going to be like. He said, imagine prison as a pot of boiling water. And he said he wanted to put 3 things in that pot of boiling water: a carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. And so he walks me through it. He said the carrot goes into prison hard, but the water, the prison, changes the carrot, turns them soft. This is someone that gets beat down by life. They're sad, they're soft, and they're weak. And he said, you don't want to be the carrot. He said the egg goes into prison hard. It has a shell. He said the egg shell will protect it from the water on the outside, but inside, the egg's not okay because its soft liquid core is hard, has become hardened now. He said if your heart becomes hardened, you're incapable of giving or receiving love. And he said if you're incapable of giving or receiving love, you're institutionalized. And you do not come back as someone your parents recognize because your eggshell has swastikas tattooed all over it. And that's what he said. He said, what about the coffee bean? And I didn't know. I didn't know what happened to a coffee bean. So he told me, he said the coffee bean, when dropped in that pot of boiling water we call prison, changes the name of the water to coffee. Because he said the coffee bean, the smallest of these 3 things, had the power to change the entire atmosphere inside that pot. And he told me, he said, everybody in life puts out energy, negative or positive. And he said, you're either going to infect those around you, you're going to affect those around you. I'll never forget that, because infect is a negative connotation. You're going to infect them with your negativity, or you're going to affect them with your positive behavior.
Right.
And when, Jackson kind of gave me the tip that, if you will walk around that prison with a smile on your face and let those guys know they're not getting to you, you'll change prison from the inside out. And said the best part about it is the other coffee beans in prison, the other positive inmates, will find you because of your energy. And so I thought to myself, Lyndol, before I got on that prison bus, and Mr. Jackson told me, go be a coffee bean. If he's right, man, if this guy's telling me the truth, if he's not jerking me off, man, that means that the power is inside me. Just like the coffee bean's power was inside it. And the power's not inside the institution of prison. The power's not in the guard's hands. Hell, the power isn't in the inmate's hands that I'm going to be around that are going to try to kill me the first couple of months I'm there. But the power's inside me. And if I don't give them the power, then I get to keep that power and I can transform. And what he was telling me, if it was true, that maybe surviving is not all I can do in prison. Maybe I can thrive instead of just survive. And that's what I set out to do, Keith. And Lyndol, and that's what I think is so important right now. The coffee bean message is so important because the entire world's in a pot of boiling water right now. This country for sure.
Yeah, mega, big time.
And what message is better suited for this time in history than the coffee bean? Because we have a choice of how we're going to respond to everything going on around us, man. We can let it make us sad and soft and weak, or we can make it let us mad and mean and angry, or we could be out there and be the agent of change, man.
Be the change. Yes.
Be the change agent, man. We can be the change we want to see in the world. And that's what I choose every day, man.
Yeah. You know, that I say that all the time. I made a post about that the other day that, you know, what we have, the biggest problem is a moral and character and value issue in this country. And people just do not want to take responsibility. It's a huge blame game. You know, I believe that blame is the virus. And I tell people all the time that tell me, hey, I just want to make a difference or I want to contribute. And I'm like, dude, you always are making a difference. You're always contributing. But the question is, how are you contributing? How are you showing up? Yeah. When you go out to Walmart or Kroger, how are you interacting with the cashier? What are you bringing to the table? You're always making a difference, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's a teacher. Everybody's a teacher, Lyndol. Everybody's a teacher. You're gonna teach someone how to do something the right way or the wrong way. Everything you do, you're gonna teach someone else. If you're gonna teach them how to do it the right way or the wrong way, you know. But you're a teacher. Every single person on this planet is a teacher, man. What way do you want to teach? You want to be a good teacher or a bad teacher?
Yeah, absolutely. So you got that advice from Mr. Jackson shortly after you caught Shane, got into prison. When you looked around, what was the thought and the feeling that overtook you? What were you telling yourself?
Fear, man. Fear is so powerful. My co-author and good friend, John Gordon, you know, he talks about fear and faith all the time. And he said, fear and faith have more in common than just the letter F. They both believe in a future that hadn't happened yet. Fear is a negative future. Faith is a positive future. So
I
should
love
always
that.
choose. Oh yeah, no, it's great, man. It's good stuff. John's so intelligent, so good. So believe in the positive future. Go with the positive aspects. But fear, man. Well, look, man, that place was the most dangerous, most toxic environment I've ever seen in my life. But all to the point that if I could transform my life and come out the way I could, you can't deny what you can see. And I didn't do this on my own. I mean, recovery, God, I mean, there's a lot of factors involved with where I am today. But you can see a guy that went into the pit of hell, man, the hardest, most toxic boiling water there is, and change that water into coffee. And if I could do it in there, then everybody can do that in their lives out here too. And those are all about choices.
And I know you got tested the moment you got there. Pretty much everything Mr. Jackson said was going to happen happened. The white people came for you, you know, what are you going to represent? Who are you going to join? You stood your ground. And then once you stood your ground to that, then the black people started coming at you. And so many fights and just really staying true to who you are, and your sense of determination led you to a place of, okay, I'm going to get my respect in here. And you did it through sports. I love the basketball story. Give me a snippet of the basketball story. It is good. I love it.
One of the most terrifying experiences in my life, man.
I can't even imagine, dude.
But I mean, like Jackson said, he said, you know, you got to fight. You're white. You got to fight the white gangs first for independence. And then you survive that. Then you're going to fight the black gangs. And if you survive all that, you can earn the right to walk alone. Well, look, man, I'm 6 weeks into it. It took me about 2 weeks to get through the white gangs. 6 weeks into prison, man. I'm getting jumped a lot, man. This is the black gangs are coming after me. I'm free game, and the whites are sending them, man, every day. Go get him, because they want to bring you into the racial. They want you to get with your own kind, and I can't do that, man. I made a promise, and it's not something I want to do anyway, man. So one Monday morning, man, I got up and I went to the basketball court in the rec yard. The rec yard's the most segregated place in prison. I mean, it's, you know, the sand volleyball court, blacks are not allowed, whites and Hispanics only. The handball court, all the races can play, but you can't play doubles with another race. Man, you got to be the same race as you if you have a partner. Same with the weight stack. You want someone to spot you, got to be the same race as you, man. You can't mix races in prison. The basketball court, no whites allowed. But I got myself into a basketball game out there by getting the basketball in my hand after one of these games was over, and I wouldn't give it up until they let me play. And and they told me, you know, you got one shot to make the basket to basically shoot for team captains. If you miss it, you're dead. But I make my shot. And it went on a 6-day odyssey of going out there playing basketball every day. And I mean, I was a pinata out there, Lyndol. I mean, and all I did was play defense and never let me shoot the ball. But by Saturday, 6 days into it, after that game was over, these guys circled up around me and they said, man, you pulled something off out here we've never seen a white boy pull off before. You took everything we had and you gave it back when you could, and you never got racial with us. You don't have to worry about the blacks the rest of the time you're in prison, man. And that felt good. Lyndol, that was the first time I saw the coffee bean really work, and I thought, man, Jackson was popped in my head right away. I'm like, man, that guy knew what he was talking about. Because you can't just take away that the scared white guy out there was the only white guy out there and he survived it. That's obvious. But think about it from the other side. Think about those black guys that had, some of them had 20 years of a bad belief system. I don't belong on their court, but in 6 days, they all made a change and they accepted me. In 6 days, we all became coffee beans. And that was my first proof that the coffee bean could work, man.
So awesome, man. And they started coming by your cell and knocking on your cell going, yo, Mayor West, let's
go shoot some hoops, West. Yep, let's go shoot some hoops, West. Yep, that's it.
I love it. And I know it was music to your ears hearing them say black people aren't going to mess with you, but you had one more run in.
Yes.
And this one was the most epic. When I read this, I felt it throughout my whole entire body. I put myself in your place. Can't even imagine. You were told by one of your friends, the Black Bandit is coming for you in the shower.
Yeah, it's my cellmate, this guy named Carlos. Carlos saved my life. You talk about putting money on someone's commissary books. I put money on Carlos's books every month. This guy saved my life, man. He's still in prison. He's serving a life sentence. He was a bank robber. But he told me that this guy's coming to rape you in the shower. What are you going to do? And, man, I know this guy's got a knife. That's his MO, man. This is a 6'4", 260 black guy, loves to rape white guys, carries it and does it by knife point, HIV positive, man. So this death sentence is coming in my face. And so Carlos is telling me, man, what are you prepared to do? And he gives me a knife, a big knife he has in his pants. He wants me to kill the Black Bandit. And I'm like, dude, I can't fight with a knife. I've never fought with a knife before. So he gives me this other choice of a weapon, which is a fan motor. We have these little fans in prison. And he cut the fan motor out of the fan, put it in this little commissary bag, swing it around like a ball and chain flail, right? Like a medieval weapon. And I got in the shower and I waited for the Black Bandit to come in. And man, I'm scared to death, man. My heart is beating. I think the guys in the day room 3 stories below can hear my heart beating, man. And when he pops his head through that shower, man, I swing this thing back as hard as I can, and I hit him, and I miss it. He raises up, I miss his head, I hit his chest, and shot him out of the shower like a cartoon character getting shot out one of those cannons. Drops his knife on the ground. And Lyndol, I'm on him, man. I've lost my mind, man. I've gone berserk. I'm trying to kill this guy. I'm swinging this thing at him. He's blocking his head, so I'm hitting ribs. I'm hearing ribs crack. I'm trying to kick his head off his body. 2 of his gang brothers flew up the stairs. He was a Mandingo warrior. 2 of his gang brothers fly up the stairs, and they get me on the 3rd row. They're like, dude, if you lay another hand on him, we're going to chuck you off the run. That's how they kill you in prison. They just throw you off the 3 row, man. That's another way you don't have wings,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I tried to explain to him, man, this guy was going to rape me. They're like, man, we know he's our brother. We know what he was doing. He had a weapon. You had a weapon. It's over, West. Back off. Back away. So, man, I grabbed my bag. I ran to my cell, and I threw it on the ground, started crying. I fell asleep in the fetal position on the floor, man. The adrenaline burned off. And when I woke up the next day, it was a new day physically. I mean, I slept for 12 hours, man, just that adrenaline burn. And I woke up on the floor of my cell, and I looked around. The doors were rolling, and so it's early time to roll the doors. And I look out, I see the weapon over there on the side. So, look, man, I know it really happened. It wasn't a dream. And I'm scared to death to walk out my cell. I don't know what's going to happen, man. I don't know what's going on out there. And, man, when I walk out, it was a different prison because all of a sudden they saw that Damon West could speak the only language everybody speaks in prison, which is violence, man. And if someone speaks it to you or you speak it to them, and they saw that I could speak violence, man, and I never had to fight again the rest of the time I was there, man. That's the last big fight I got in my entire time in prison.
How long was that? How long were you in before that happened?
8 weeks at that point.
Oh, really? That soon?
Yeah, they come at you hard right when you walk in the door. I mean, because a little white guy like me comes in, man, they're going to break me. Either I'm going to go with the gangs or they're going to break me. They're going to send guys to rape you, all kinds of stuff. That's the MO. That's what the gangs do, man. But at every turn, man, Jackson told me, he said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you do have to fight all your fights. So that's what I knew. No one cares whether or not you win or lose in there, Lyndol. They only care to see if you show up to fight, if you will defend yourself. And I did. And I lost most of my fights. Lost them.
Wow. And the remainder, the remainder of the story, and I know you're on a time crunch, so I'm kind of just hitting these points for you, but the remainder of the story, man, finding recovery, really engulfing yourself in that and working a program of transformation, both spiritual, emotional, and mental, and combining all of those things to recreate Damon West back to the original loving Damon West as a kid.
Well, even a better version, because when I got
better
into
version,
recovery,
yes, absolutely.
When I got into recovery in prison, I learned a better way of living, and I learned how to deal with my disease of addiction, because I had, first of all, you admit you're powerless and that your life has become unmanageable. And that's a big thing, because I thought I had all this power and I thought I manipulated everybody, but I really control what I think, say, feel, and do. And whenever, I was in prison for, 4 years of being in recovery in prison. Right when I got out, I found the home group, because I paroled out to the same area where my prison was. And the guy that brought the meetings into the prison, I went to his home group the day I got out. And I walk in the door, and I call him Ray to protect his anonymity. And I walk in, and Ray is like, dude, you made it. And I said, I told you I was going to make it. I need a sponsor. And he said, I got you, man. But I've been locked up for 7 years and 3 months, Lyndol. I told Ray, I was like, man, I wanted a girlfriend. I wanted to go out and meet a girl. He said, no. And I thought he was going to tell me he had to wait a year or 2 years to get a plant first, something like that. Take care of a plant, take care of a pet. He said, no. He said, all I'm going to ask you to do is that you work the steps before you get into a relationship with anybody. Because at the end of working the 12 steps, fully working the 12 steps, being honest, open-minded, and willing, then you will be a person worthy of being in a relationship with, and you will be able to run everything that goes on in your life, in your relationship, through your program of recovery, and you'll find a healthy relationship because now you're mature enough. And it was true. I've never been able to have a mature relationship in my life, so I was a better version of myself because of recovery, and I still am to this day, man. I still go to meetings. In fact, I'll hit a meeting tonight with my sponsor, Ray. So that's
awesome. Yeah, man, you vibe it out, and you're putting that stuff out, that good stuff. You're going to attract that good stuff, and you end up with the perfect match. And it's a dream come true. I love it. It's such a powerful story, man. And I think right after that, a big turning point was you were able to land a job that the warden gave you. He saw the behavior changes and how you were helping people learn to read. You became a teacher of the other inmates and helping them learn more skills and all of that. So he offered you a pretty important position as a kind of a test.
Yeah, he gave me a job working in unit supply. And unit supply is the warehouse where everything comes into. All the supplies that run a prison come through that warehouse, man. Everything from paper clips to the hand carts to diesel fuel. It all comes through there. And you're a clerk. You're a stocker in there. You keep an inventory, but he had a big theft problem. And he said, I need you to clean it up for me. And he said, here's the thing. When you clean this place up and you cut out the theft, the graft in there, you're going to be a target for everybody because you're shutting down a major criminal operation that the inmates have in the prison, and they're going to want to get you. You cannot say, well, the warden's on my side. You got to figure out a way to navigate this thing, and you can't use my name. You're in the wind. He said, but if you can do this, Damon, you will show parole that a reformed thief can have a job and be honest in this job, the most tempting job to steal in all of prison. If you can turn it around in there, parole will notice you. And man, they did. Parole noticed that. I did the job. What's interesting, too, is yesterday I went and had lunch with that warden. He just retired. He lives in the area.
Really?
I took him to lunch at Jason's Deli, man. We stay in touch all the time.
That's awesome. Wow,
his name is Darren Wallace.
Dude.
Yeah, Warden Wallace. Yep.
That is extremely cool, man. And, you had such a support system on the outside, too. People rallying together to help you put together a packet for parole and, gathering up all these meeting attendances, just all the good work that you'd been doing while you were serving time. And that, your parents visited you 150 times while you were in there?
Over 150 times, man. Over 150 times they came to visit me in prison, which is unheard of in there, because people don't get those kind of visits like that. My parents, but they never let go of me, Keith. Lyndol, they never let go of me. They never gave up on me. And they live, real close to the prison. They live 10 minutes away from the prison. They would be there almost every weekend. The only weekends my parents wouldn't come is Mother's Day, because my mom said it's the busiest visitation day in prison in America is Mother's Day every year, because everybody's got a mom, right? So my mom always said, let's let someone else have our table for visitation, some other mother meet with her son. So that's the only time I never saw my parents throughout the whole time of prison was Mother's Day, which that's okay, man. I got to see them most other times. Hey, I'll make a deal with you, Lyndol. I've had so much fun on this thing. Why don't we come back for round 2 of this deal?
Heck yeah.
Just set up another time and you can hit me with more questions. I love the fact that you've read and you're asking these questions. So I'm in, man. I'm in. Let's go. I've got to jump on another Zoom call, but let's set up another time to do part 2 of this. You want to do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I'll send you an email. Awesome. We'll set it up. Thank you for taking the time, man. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Getting live with Lyndol Keith, episode number 9 with the one and only Mayor West. Brother.
Hey, and we'll do episode 10. We'll do 9 and 10. We'll do back to back.
Right on, brother. Sounds good, man.
Brother. All right, Lyndol.
You have a good one.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.